All right, welcome back to Blue by 90. I'm Justin, joined by Tanner today. It is December 19th, and the portal is popping. It has been a crazy couple weeks for Michigan football. Guys leaving, guys coming. So, just to start it off, like the portal is just an insane time period now. It's a 20-day window, right, in the winter before there's the spring portal period as well. But right now, it's just like this is chaos.
I mean, yesterday, Damon Payne, former Belleville recruit who spent the last 4 years at Alabama, it gets announced early in the morning on Wednesday the 18th that he's committed. He signed with Michigan. He had signed paperwork, and then everybody's like, "No, actually, that never happened." And I think On3 reported that his paperwork was nullified, and then he ends up committing last night officially. Sounds like there was some confusion on what paperwork Payne was actually signing. He didn't realize he was signing to come to Michigan. I guess was concerned about a leak. Problem is, Justin, is I'm sure you're aware, in the portal, if you sign anywhere, that is public knowledge. Many people have access to that portal database. So just one small example of this crazy portal of these kids
What
that change their mind and go back and forth, and it's interesting.
I'm trying to think of like what paperwork you thought you were signing that is not like you're signing to go to Michigan, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's all very confusing because it all happened so fast and there's a lot of, legal stuff and whatever. I get that. But yeah, wild times. I also saw this is another example of it, but 5-star wide receiver that was committed to it actually signed with Oregon, I believe, is asking to be out of his national letter of intent and going to Florida. So
Yeah.
even when like the point, like we're to the point where a commitment means nothing, right? Like if you commit, like it's basically every commitment is just a soft commit. It's like, all right, he may be coming here, but not really. Every kid seems to be still taking visits after committing. Now, even after they sign, you can't trust that they're actually going to play for your team.
Yeah, I mean, you see this all the time. I mean, Michigan's been a benefactor of this. Brandon Hillman was signed with Notre Dame and got out of his LOI and came to Michigan before last season in 2023. So yeah, you see it. It's interesting. Dallas Wilson's the 5-star receiver who's probably going to go to Florida. Is there any chance Joe Lynn? Hey, can we
Shout
fire
out
up the
to
money?
Lynn.
Can we fire up the money cannon? I would like some more receivers. We'll get into who Michigan is sort of targeting in the mix for. But yeah, it's a new day and age, man. There's no salary cap. Teams have their own that they've instituted to make sure that they're not blowing through their budget. But every guy is a free agent at any waking moment. I can understand why college coaches are leaving this sport and going to the NFL. I mean, you've seen it with guys like Jeff Hafley, who was the head coach at Boston College, left to go be the defensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers. Just less stress, more time off. You don't have the headache of having to re-recruit your roster 365 days a year. So I don't know what the answer is. Thankfully, Justin, I don't get paid to figure out the answer. So they got to figure something out, man. And now another point, and I'm sure we were going to get to this, but Diego Pavia, the quarterback at Vanderbilt, got another year of eligibility or won some sort of injunction against the NCAA because they're saying now his JUCO season doesn't count. It's 5 years to play 4. What are we doing?
I don't, and I saw the lawsuit was like that he could make $1 million and that's what they're like taking that away from him, right? It's like, okay, well, they're not because yeah, you could if you had eligibility. There has like I did see somebody say this yesterday, which I don't think I'm quite to this point, but it's like they said I'm starting to feel bad for the NCAA a little bit, right? And I kind of agree with them in the point of like everyone's like, oh, there needs to be structure, there needs to be rules, there needs to be whatever. So the NCAA is like, okay, here are the rules, and then they just get a lawsuit slapped on them, and they're like, okay, well, no rules then, I guess, because when we do try to make rules, they're so like, listen, I like Diego Pavia, like sure that's fun for Vandy to have that their quarterback back. I think that's could be good for college football, but like at some point, man, it can't just be like, all right, I'm just gonna sue them and keep playing forever, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, man. I just where does it end, right? Like, not to be the old men yelling at the sky, but like, where does it end? Like, I don't understand what we're doing here. A lot of these rules are archaic. Just back to the transfer portal. I think Jim Harbaugh nailed it a few years ago. You get one free transfer. You should not be able to play. I mean, dude, you see Hayes Foss's tweets. These guys have played for 3 or 4 programs and they're transferring again. It's absurd.
And that's not, I honestly believe this is kind of an old man take, a Jim Harbaugh, Tom Izzo type take of like, that's not good for the kids, right?
No.
Like to have 4 programs in 4 years or more, that is, you're not growing, you're not developing, you are just jumping from ship to ship. And ultimately at the end of the day, like that kid would be better off by, he'd be better off just by like showing adversity and battling through, but B, he'd be a better football player because he's learning the same, you're learning and getting better at the same thing, right? Instead of trying to go to a new program, different system, scheme, all that stuff. Like ultimately, I agree with you. I think Jim Harbaugh nailed it on the head of NIL, nailed it on the head of the transfer portal. He was way ahead of his time. Should get a lot more credit for that. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into where Michigan stands right now. So I think actually Anthony Broom just came out with it that they have Michigan as the 3rd ranked team for in the portal so far. So again, there's a lot of time left, but there. Well, when I say a lot of time, how much time is there left? Actually, there's not that.
I think until the 28th. So players don't have to commit by the 28th. They just need to get into school, right? They can stay in the portal. They have a deadline to get into the portal. And then it's where, then they can, recommit or commit to a school. I don't know what that rule looks like if you're in the portal when the deadline ends and then you want to go back to your original school. I don't know if you have to do something additional with that. You got to think about this too, man. So we're 2 days away. Actually, we're 1 day away from the college football playoff, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah,
On campus, like, dude, go look at the weather for South Bend tomorrow night.
I love
Potential snow. It's gonna be 20s.
Also, I was thinking about this too. Sorry, we're now going on a little bit of a tangent, but like being in the state of Indiana this weekend has to be just absurdity, right?
Oh, I have family in Indiana. I'm gonna be in the Fort Wayne area this weekend to see family, and we're definitely gonna make a beat up trip. I honestly wish that I could in time get an Indiana hoodie, an SMU jacket, and a Tennessee hat. That's what I'm rooting for. Texas Clemson. I know you got the Clemson affiliation. I don't really care who wins that one. I'm a hater. I want to see all 3 of those teams lose.
You're like the Lakers, Cowboys, Yankees guy, like that.
Yeah, I'm Rob Lowe with the NFL hat.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, just think about though, like I don't think Indiana Notre Dame is quite this big of a rivalry, but think about Michigan State, right? An in-state rivalry at home, like either at the Big House or at Spartan Stadium on Friday, December 20th at 8 p.m. Like the state would explode.
You just gave me anxiety thinking about that scenario. I don't know if that'll ever happen. It'll be interesting to see where the program's head in the future. But so my point with the college football playoff is by Sunday, you're going to have 4 teams that are out of the playoffs. So you're going to have 4 teams with guys that are probably going to enter the portal. And you're seeing some guys from those teams start to filter through and their names are in the portal. But I just think, Michigan so far has done a good job. Quarterback has been interesting, and we'll talk about that. Receiver has been interesting. They do have a commit there. But there's going to be quite a few more guys, I would imagine, that are going to enter before the end of the portal deadline. This is another problem, though, Justin. College football is still happening, and there are 12 teams that are in the playoffs that are playing for a championship, and maybe their guys want to go elsewhere, want to put themselves in a position to make more money to go to the NFL, to continue their playing career. And it's just like, it's tough because, you have school that starts January 7th or whatever it might be for these different institutions. So it's just a mess, honestly. Like, it's gotten worse and worse every year. I don't either.
I know James Franklin went off on a tangent of it because he's dealing with it right now. Michigan dealt with it last year, like to the max, right? I just don't know the solution because to your point, like a lot of teams their season has ended on the Thanksgiving weekend. So
Yeah.
naturally, like they're going to get working in the portal, right? Whether it's tampering or not. The other thing that's happening right now is everybody tampers and the NCAA does literally nothing about it. So
Every school is back channeling.
every
Michigan,
single,
Ohio
like,
State, Bama, Clemson, Georgia, all of us are back channeling to try to get players to get into the portal. Say, hey, we're working with their agent. We didn't directly contact the player, but we know who his agent is, and we said, hey, we've got $700,000 for him to play, whatever school next year. I don't know, man. It's a broken system. What do you think though? Like on a broader scale, as you think about your enjoyment of college football, has it diminished it? I don't think so. For me, I still love it.
there's that camp out there that this is like ruining college football. I think that it ruins a little bit of like I like the guys. I've always liked this in pro sports too. The Derek Jeters who play for one team their entire career. I just think that their legacy is so much more. Even Tom Brady, like, yes, he went and won a Super Bowl with the Bucks, but I truly believe that his legacy would be better off if he was just a Patriot for life and like was the face of that franchise for the rest of history. Right. Like I think that part stinks where it's like, okay, I can't really cling on to a guy, when he's probably going to, or not probably, but very well could transfer at any time. And it's like, okay, am I going to go get a jersey? Am I going to go like, be in love with this guy who's a Michigan Wolverine for life? Like that's what makes Blake Corum and JJ McCarthy so awesome is, they're Mikey Sainer still, right? Like they're Michigan through and through. That doesn't mean that I don't love Josiah Stewart also, but it's just a little bit different scenario, right?
Yeah. Well, dude, think of how long ago, like, think about Blake Corum committed. Well, JJ committed before Corum. JJ committed as a sophomore. And so you're just more in touch with these recruits because they commit to your school 2 years before they ever step foot on the field.
I mean, that was what, 2018, right?
19.
So like
it was like May 2019 when JJ committed, and I think Blake committed in Michigan. This I know this because this is how Michigan recruiting goes: is that they load up in like June. Right. So Blake commits in June. A guy like Quentin Johnson commits in June. I remember his commitment, and he made not the flashiest player that's ever donned the winged helmet, but like think about his play against Ohio State on a Mecca.
I mean, he's been one of those consistent guys. I think he is similar on the defensive side to Cornelius Johnson on the offensive side, where it's like never, obviously CJ had the two big plays in the Ohio State game and Quentin had a big play in the Ohio State game, but like they're so reliable and don't make mistakes and just like that type of guy.
Same as like Makari Page, he was I believe a 2020 kid and made huge plays in his last game, I guess Ohio State. So yeah, I'm with you, but this is a way to refill the talent on your roster in a year that Michigan kind of needs to make an overhaul. And you look at a program like Indiana, as we were talking about, within 1 year, one offseason, they completely reshaped the future and the outlook of their program. And they're sitting there at 11-1 in the college football playoff. Michigan, we talked about their schedule in our last show. It's very favorable. So, Michigan is going to be aggressive. I think, people are a little bit uneasy about how slow moving Michigan has been, but over the last few days, you've seen them gain a number of transfer portal commits. And there's some other guys out there, Justin, that I think are extremely talented. So what, we kind of, I think should start with quarterback. That's probably the most pressing need at this point. Obviously Bryce Underwood is coming in, so we'll see how that looks.
Again? Is he good? I don't know.
I think they compared him to Vince Young. Was it Vince Young? Yeah, I don't know.
But I still think, obviously, like you need to. I think you just need an older guy, right, an experienced QB to come in and it's a just in case Bryce isn't, which is a tough situation. Like I think that a lot of people are wanting to go Michigan to also go spend $1 million on the best quarterback in the portal, and it's like, okay, the reality is this kid, like the best case scenario is this kid comes in and gets beat out by Bryce Underwood, right?
Here's the thing though, Billy Edwards is getting $1 million.
I know, it's crazy.
So I also, we talked about this, but some of the reporting of the details of the Underwood NIL package have been detrimental to Michigan's pursuits of players in the portal. Other recruits, oh, Bryce is getting X, I want this much, and it's detrimental to Michigan. So at quarterback, though, I mentioned Billy Edwards. It seemed like, gosh, I think before Bryce was ever even a thought, the consensus was that it was going to be Miller Moss from USC.
Yeah.
And then it sounded like he maybe got cold feet because of Bryce Underwood's presence,
which is understandable, right?
He lost his job at USC. So it's like, I don't want to do that again. And honestly, him going to Louisville, that's a kind of a fun marriage there with Jeff Brom. We know what Jeff Brom can do. He's been a really good coach since he's been with Purdue and at Western Kentucky before that. So, that's a, it happens, it gets away. And then it seemed like it kind of transitioned to Billy Edwards, the Maryland quarterback. He's the guy, if you remember, that scored 3 one-yard touchdowns against Michigan at Maryland the week before Ohio State in 2023. The game where everyone's probably clinching really, really hard, and Mike Samer still has a couple picks. And so he ends up going to Wisconsin. The crystal balls are in for Michigan from the on-3 guys, and then he cancels his visit to Michigan. I think he was supposed to go to Virginia, commits to Wisconsin. Then Michigan's like, okay, where do we pivot to? DeQuan Finn, former Toledo quarterback, Baylor last year, gets hurt last year. A very athletic guy. I don't know how great of a pure quarterback he is. Watch some of his film. I think things kind of break down. He plays a lot of backyard football, for lack of a better term.
And I think that the allure for him is he plays a similar style to Bryce, right? So it would be like if both of them could play the whatever style, and it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bryce is, just a completely different level of quarterback. Finn's probably more athletic. I think Finn, if he doesn't, if he loses a job or, the job has a job for 5 weeks, I think can be some sort of gadget guy. A great athlete, man. I mean, I was watching his highlights and his kind of his breakdown against Ohio State 2 years ago. If you remember, he made some throws, he made some plays. Very athletic guy. Did not look outmatched on that field against Ohio State. So, I mean, I think they put up 21 or 28 points in that game, which with Toledo, it's, you played against Ohio State. It's pretty impressive. So,
yeah.
Now I believe that they are turning to Mikey Keene. If you remember, the Fresno State quarterback, we've seen him.
Yes, we have seen him. And his name was thrown out there early for Michigan, and then it went quiet, and now they're back. I don't hate this. Like, I think both these guys could be good options. Again, I'm sitting here saying, like, best case scenario, Bryce Underwood's playing for us, right?
Yeah.
So I think that you're not just with the situation, you're not going to go no like big time number one, top quarterback in the portal is going to come to Michigan. I don't think with the situation. So. Yeah. I like both these guys. I like Mikey Keene. I think he played pretty well against us and really
you're not gonna go against Will Johnson next year. So you don't have to worry about throwing a pick six. No, I mean, Ole Miss has been the kings of the portal, right? Like the last 2 years, the last 2 cycles, they have been dominant in the portal. They're getting a lot of guys this year. He just came off a visit to Ole Miss. Honestly, if a quarterback is being recruited by Lane Kiffin, I can get bought into that, right? So I think he's visiting this weekend. I think we'll probably have a lot more clarity on the quarterback situation over the next few days. Again, relatively early in the portal. I mean, it's been open for 10 days. And again, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, look at what's going to happen at Texas. That's one that I am interested in. Is Michigan maybe trying to see what's going on with Quinn Ewers? Because I feel like you have to start Arch Manning. Otherwise, you're going to get negatively recruited into the sun. Like, look, the number one player in the country in his class sat for 3 years at Texas. So I don't think Quinn Ewers is going to go to the NFL. I think he's going to transfer and go to and there's already a report out there that some Big Ten school has an enormous amount on the table for him. I don't think that's Michigan. I think that's probably Oregon.
I'm going to guess it's Oregon because that's literally what they've done the past 2 years is spend a ton of money on a really good quarterback.
Dante Moore's going to get recruited over. So,
it is what it is.
So quarterback, I think we'll see some clarity. I think it'll probably, if I had to guess, I would say it's probably Keene or Finn at this point. And I think Bryce is starting by October. I will put that on the record. I just feel like he's just too talented. And, JJ as a freshman, you could see was really good. I think Bryce is probably further along than JJ was at this point. And Bryce is
Bryce
also
is-
younger.
I was with him at Will Johnson's toy drive. You were there too.
Yes,
and
that was electric.
it was great.
It's a
So
physical, like a physically imposing kid. I didn't realize how big this dude is.
that's what I was just gonna say. Is like that was the first time I had been with him in person, and I mean he's huge. He's got to be closer to 6'6" than 6'5", and just like I know he had a coat on, but still, just for an 18-year-old, like
He's 17.
17-year-old, he's huge.
Yeah.
Like I'm obviously you're looking at him for come August and September, but I'm thinking down the road, even, as a sophomore and a junior, like that kid is going to be physically special.
Absolutely. I mean, you could see where the Vince Young comparison comes in, the Cam Newton comparison. I don't know if he'll get to 250 like Cam was, probably 230, 240. You'll be curious to see what he looks like over the next, 8 months. He's going to get in there. He's going to be in the strength and conditioning program, the nutrition program. I mean, he's, it's going to be interesting to see how he develops physically, but man, he looks the part. I'll say that. Just a big, strong looking kid.
Which I think is crazy because I believe we talked about this on our last podcast too. JJ, when he was 17 and 18, looked
Not
like
even
a
close.
boy.
Yeah.
He was tiny. He didn't have a single hair on his face, right? Like he is, it was very different. And obviously he grew up a lot over his couple years.
It took until his junior year though. Like his sophomore year still he was pretty frail, and then his junior year I think he bulked up a little bit, which
his
helped.
junior year, like that was like honestly where I was like, okay, he essentially hit puberty. Like he grew, like he was taller, he was bigger, like he became a man, honestly, in that junior year. Whereas like I just think it's very interesting that Bryce is coming in like already looking like JJ was in that junior year.
It's we don't want to turn this into the Bryce Underwood podcast.
I mean, we could.
Blue by Underwood is what our new name will be.
But let's talk about who he's throwing to. So some commits that are, let's talk about who is committed to Michigan in the portal. Donovan McCulley coming in from Indiana. I think 6'5" receiver automatically gets me like, all right, I'm all in. Like we haven't had that guy in a while. Can Donovan McCulley be Nico Collins or like at least play that role?
I don't know. I would need to go back and watch his junior year film. So in 2023, he has 48 catches, 644 in yards, 6 touchdowns for a bad Indiana team. He gets hurt last year. And then when he comes back, his boy Kurt Signetti is rolling with his boys from JMU and in the portal. So he doesn't get much run. I think he was like not technically, but like, for all intents and purposes, he was in the portal in like October.
Yeah.
Once he realized he was not going to play. This is a guy that Michigan wanted last year. I think would have immensely helped the roster if he was on it. Just that receiver room, obviously, we know in 2024 is not ideal. But yeah, he's a big-bodied outside receiver, kind of the first one that Michigan's had in quite a while. I mean, because even CJ was what, 6'1", 6'2"? So this is the first time.
CJ was bigger. I think CJ was probably more 6'3", 6'4".
Okay.
But he didn't play like some big, dominant.
Right. He's not going up and mossing guys for them. I mean, he had a couple catches where he went up and made a play. And honestly, man, I would take CJ on any Michigan team any day of the week. I thought it was very solid. I think there's some portion of the fan base that like is not a fan of his. I don't know why. Like he's always going to be a Michigan legend to me. But yeah, to your point, man, I mean, he's the big body receiver that Michigan really hasn't had since Nico. So, I don't know what they're going to pair him with as far as the other receivers. You have some freshmen that are here this year. I think about Amarion Stewart, Channing Goodwin. There's rumors that, Michigan finished second for Jordan Shipp, who's at North Carolina right now. Who knows if he hits it off with 72-year-old Bill Belichick.
Or his girlfriend.
He's a Providence Day kid, right? So it's Channing Goodwin, Jaden Davis. I think there might be like a walk-on on the team that's from Providence Day as well. So obviously a lot of familiarity. So I think he'd be a guy, he would have 3 years of eligibility or maybe 4. I think he redshirted this year. He was hurt. But he's like a top 100 kid. I think would come in and play right away. But just from, Michigan, Channing Goodwin is coming into his second year. Marion Stewart, And then you have the recruits from the 2025 class coming in, led by Andrew Marsh. I think Marsh will play right away. I think he's just physically ready. He looks the part. But I would feel a lot more comfortable they went and got two more proven receivers at this point.
I agree. I do think Marsh plays right away. I think you also have to hope too that like Fred Moore steps into a big role too.
Well,
right?
does Tyler Morris come back too? Like, he's not committed anywhere. Is there an opportunity for him to return? I think if you have an actual outside receiver like Donovan McCulley, you have him in the slot, you have another outside type of receiver to pair with those guys, I would be totally fine with running it back with Tyler Morris. I think I've seen that he can make plays.
I would too. Tyler Morris is never going to be your number one outside option, right? Like he doesn't fit that mold. So I totally agree. I feel pretty comfortable. I agree with you. I would say maybe one more receiver and I'd be pretty happy. Right. But if you're running it with Donovan McCulley, Andrew Marsh, Fred Moore, Samaj Morgan, possibly Tyler Morris back, I think that's not a bad, maybe Peyton O'Leary comes back for the experienced vet, right? Like, I don't know. What?
The P-Dog.
The P-Dog. Why not? So I think that either way, you're looking at an improved receiver room, immensely improved.
Well, and don't forget too that, Michigan's still going to rely heavily on tight ends. And so you have,
I think
Marlon coming back,
Hogan Hansen, a dog, dude.
Yeah. Hogan Hansen, I think if Davis gets that ball up a little bit, we're really talking about Hogan Hansen as like, wow, this is a guy that, similar to Colston Loveland, would have had a touchdown as a true freshman at the shoe, right? And you're like, okay, I'm not saying he's going to be Colston, but I think he's going to be a guy that will, probably have 25 to 30 catches next year and then set himself up for a strong junior season. But then in the portal, Michigan is after Max Clare from Purdue, who I would say was one of their two or three best players. Not a great team.
He's the number one tight end though in the portal.
Yeah. He put up 51 catches for almost 700 yards, 4 touchdowns last year. He originally
amazing.
So I think he visited Texas A&M, and then he had originally committed to Purdue under Jeff Brom, and so he visited Louisville. He's also visited Michigan, I believe. I don't know exactly when. I want to say with this week he visited. I think Michigan gives him a lot to think about as far as their production with tight ends over the last number of years. The guys they have put into the NFL. You think about Colston Loveland's going to be a first-round pick this year. Luke Shoemaker's been playing a lot with the Dallas Cowboys. Eric Ole, I know, transferred to Iowa, but before he got hurt, he was playing really well with the Bengals. That's another guy that Michigan can point to and say, hey, we developed him. There's a lot of guys that you can point to in the NFL, since Jim Harbaugh has been with Michigan. And Sherrone Moore obviously comes from that coaching tree, and that's not going away, right? Like, you look at what Colston was for this offense in 2024. He was the most pivotal piece by far.
And with the thing is for Colston, with a competent quarterback and just passing game, he is by far the most dominant tight end in the country, right? Tyler Warren was great for Penn State. Colston Loveland was so much better in terms of being a dynamic receiver / tight end, right? So there's a reason I can guarantee you that Colston Loveland goes higher than Tyler Warren in the draft.
Yes. So. He's also, can you imagine Colston Loveland as a fifth-year senior playing?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right? Like that discourse was really annoying. Like, okay, like Colston Loveland is far and away better.
He's far and away better. If put Colston Loveland on that Penn State team with Drew Allar is like, it's
not even close. Colston Loveland's still, I think, only 20 years old. Like, let's chill.
Anyways, all right. So, and then on the offensive line, we brought in Brady Norton from FCS Cal Poly. So,
yes.
I think FCS guys can be pretty hit or miss if they're ready, but he was, it sounds like the best offensive lineman in the entire FCS last year.
Yeah.
Huge kid, 6'4", 270 right now. I'm sure that he will bulk up even more. But interior O-lineman, which we desperately need.
I think he can play tackle.
You think he can?
Yeah. He's got, I've read that he has very long arms. And so as a tackle, that's important. If you're not 6'7", if you're 6'5" and you have long arms, that's going to help you keep that defensive lineman at a certain length, right? You're going to be able to, it's just going to help you be a better pass pro guy. That's really what it comes to. That's why you always see taller guys at tackle positions, because taller guys naturally are going to have longer arms. So if you are 6'4", 6'5", and you've got those longer arms, you're going to be able to play tackle. So, but he's a guy that gives them a lot of flexibility. I think he's 290 is what I saw. 270 is pretty wide.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm on 3 right now. It says interior line 6'4", 270, but who knows? Can't trust on 3 all the time. So
No, you can't. Just ask this random podcast, man. But yeah, he's a guy. I mean, Ohio State offered him, and then 12 hours later, he was committed to Michigan. I love guys like that. Even though Brady Hart's going to be going to Texas A&M, still love his commitment when he's like visiting Ohio State and then commits like 2 hours later to Michigan. So always appreciate guys that get an offer and then commit to Michigan to get an offer from Ohio State. But yeah, very coveted guy.
He crossed out the O.
We don't, Brady. We don't have to do that here. It's okay.
I think it was a pretty funny shot at him.
It was, yeah. No, it was, especially because he probably talked to Ryan Day like 12 hours before then. So, but no, sometimes you're a Michigan kid or you're an Ohio State kid, right? That's what it comes down to as far as these recruits go. So, yeah, I don't know who else. Josh Thompson from Northwestern, I think Michigan's in a really good position for, from what I've read. And
I think if you would you feel comfortable if they get Brady Norton and Josh Thompson? Are you comfortable with what we have in that room then with Sprague and Blake Frazier and hopefully Gio coming back?
I would say so. I believe I saw that Wake Forest. So I had missed this, by the way, until I saw that Jake Dickert was hired to Wake Forest. I didn't realize Dave Clawson had stepped down. I saw that Wake Forest, I don't have his name in front of me, but I saw their center had entered the portal. I think if we could get a center, I would feel very good about Josh Thompson, Brady Norton, and a center. And then you fill in the rest with a guy like Gio. You see what Evan Link, how he progresses at right tackle. And obviously Sprague coming up, like Frazier coming up. Blake's a guy that we got to talk to at the Will Johnson Toy Drive. Pretty physically opposing kid for a true freshman right now. So we'll see what another year of strength and conditioning does for him. But yeah, I think if you were able to go and get a center, I know they were, they had hosted a kid, Jordan White from Liberty. I believe he's going to Vandy. So shout out to Vanderbilt. Shout out Clark Lee for getting that done. But yeah, if you get a center and Thompson, I'd be feeling pretty good, man.
I agree. I think that right now, I feel good about our defensive line. I think you got to round out the offensive line, and then I'll feel really good with where we're at, because you do land Damon Payne after, I don't know, we talked about it at the beginning, a long day, weird day, who knows what really went down there. But you land him. And now you've got a rotation with Derek Moore coming back, TJ Guy coming back, Rayshon Benny. You've got David Payne. You've got Eno Etta coming up, right? You've got Cam Brandt still there. So, I think our defensive line, I don't know that you're going to have Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, and Josiah Stewart, but you're reloading pretty damn well on the D line.
Yeah, and you think another year of, Jay Sean potentially moving down the edge is interesting. You think about, they're going after Keyshawn Silver, who's a defensive tackle from Kentucky, who's a big-time fish out there in the portal right now. Sounds like Michigan's squarely in the mix for that one. I kind of assumed that they would probably drop out. He's going to be expensive, but this is a new Michigan. This is a new time.
I would say, it really is a new Michigan in terms of you went from Jim Harbaugh in 2023, refusing to even talk to a recruit if they're asking for money, literally, would not even all right, if you're even mentioning money on a recruiting visit, see it. We pay our guys that are on our team that have earned it. To now, fast forward to the 2024 into 2025 off season, it's we're paying a lot of money to guys, right? We are in the mix in terms of top offers around the country, including our quarterback, right? So I mean, I do want to give credit to Michigan, the athletic department, the collective, Sherrone Moore, right? In terms of just coming to the table, and saying, all right, we're gonna play ball, right? Why not? So that's pretty great. And then let's see, the Metcalfs. So Tevis and TJ Metcalf, I think that's big for our secondary, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, TJ is the one that's played more. Tevis, I believe, is the corner. TJ is the safety. TJ had 3 picks last year. He had a forced fumble, had 56 tackles, played a lot for Arkansas. So, and again, you had guys like, you think about Jaron Mangum, who was injured in 2024. So he's coming back. Brandon Hillman, I would assume, is coming back. So we'll see what Rod does. I think if Rod comes back, it just changes the dynamic of what you can do defensively. I think Zeke Berry, just talk about the secondary, I think might have a future playing corner. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, he was not great at the nickel spot, but at the outside corner spot, I thought was awesome towards the end of the season. We were very critical of Zeke, and he played his ass off, man.
you have much more of a need at that spot, I think, right now. So I think it actually would fit not only just him playing better there, but what our need is. And to your point about Rod Moore coming back, like that does change everything because he is the leader. Even while he was injured this year, still was a huge leader for that defense, right? He's essentially another coach on the sideline. So I think that having an old head like him, which is weird to call him an old head now, right? I feel like just that, it was just yesterday that he was just a young buck that was starting at safety as a sophomore for us. So, but I think that if you add the Metcalfs in there, I don't know what Jair Hill is going to do, but hopefully you get Hillman back. Hopefully you get Zeke back. And I think that our secondary can be much improved as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Shamari Earls coming in. You've got Josiah Edmond from last year's class, who was a late riser. I always like those kids that kind of shoot up the rankings towards the end of their senior year. I think that those guys typically have a higher hit rate than the guys who are just ranked as a sophomore because they're highly athletic. So,
Bryce Merritt said that he wouldn't be shocked if Shamari Earls starts day one.
Yeah, I think he's a dog. I mean, I honestly am, I think he's a stud. So, I think there's a lot that Michigan's, gonna do still in the portal. I know that they're after Todd Bowles' son, Troy Bowles, who was at Georgia, was a big time recruit that Michigan was in on initially coming out of high school. I believe they offered a linebacker from, I want to say Washington. I don't have it in front of me. I'm trying to there's information scattered so much. I need to keep
it's just like there's something new coming up about who's interested, who's offered, like literally every 20 minutes. They had let's see, I've got it. Where'd the
well, and then real quick, we skipped over running back. So Justice Haynes from Alabama, I believe I read, is visiting this weekend.
He is. It's Kamori House who Michigan offer from.
He's like one of the higher ranked linebackers in the portal as well.
Yeah. They also need a linebacker if Jay Sean's moving to edge, right? So
absolutely. I mean, Jimmy Rolder, another year, his career has been plagued by injuries, unfortunately. I always liked him coming out of high school. I thought his film was phenomenal. And as a freshman, I thought he popped. So maybe this is an opportunity for Jimmy to get in the lineup and make some plays, because I've always thought he has the ability. And then, so at running back, Justice Haynes, and then Dante Dowdell from Nebraska. He entered the portal, returned to Nebraska, then re-entered the portal. And I saw a bunch of Nebraska people saying that the reason he entered the portal again was because of Michigan. So I don't know. I think he has had some fumble issues in Nebraska, where he's a really good running back, but he'd fumble and then he'd sit. And so I think I would prefer Justice Haynes. But again, just another guy that has played a lot of football at running back to pair with Jordan Marshall and Ben Hall and whoever else, I don't think is a bad idea at all. I've been saying that for the last couple of months now. I think I've sounded like a broken record on wanting a running back, but I just think that you want somebody with some experience, because Jordan Marshall didn't get a lot of playing time last year because of injury.
Right. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think that I mean, Justice Haynes would change the dynamic. I think he would come in and probably be the starter, right? And so again, I think you're teetering a little bit of like the Ewers and Arch Manning thing, not to that degree, but like at some point, Jordan Marshall and Ben Hall, like you have to give them some run, right? You have to, Jordan Marshall's a top recruit. So, and I think he's going to bulk up even more than he already is. And I have a really good feeling that he's going to be a huge part of this offense, whether they get a running back or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to, real quick, as we talked about Max Clare from Purdue, I just saw that Ohio State's getting their getting in that one.
Yeah, I don't
Max, if
like
you're
that.
listening to the podcast, well, you should like it because it's hilarious to me. Their leading tight end last year, G. Scott, had 16 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their next leading tight end was 2 catches for 61.
Hey,
Why do these tight ends continue to go there?
hey, Max, they're gonna throw it to Jeremiah Smith. I'm just gonna let you know that. Well, unless they're playing Michigan, I guess. But
No, that's a different story. Let's just real quick. Colson Loveland, 56 catches, 582 yards, 5 touchdowns, missed 2 games.
like, hey,
actually
you're
probably
either gonna
missed
come to
more.
Michigan and be literally the focal point of our offense, or be the 5th option at Ohio State. What's better?
Hey, somebody get AJ Barner on the phone with this guy.
Yes,
Indiana, Purdue, maybe some familiarity. You know,
literally. I mean, I'm not saying that Michigan solely made AJ Barner an NFL tight end, but he doesn't become an NFL tight end without the run that he had at Michigan, in my opinion.
no, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, Colson was, again, he missed 2 games, but he missed probably like 3.5 because he was just like out at various times, like against Texas and Michigan. No, Northwestern was out at half. So yeah, dude, come on. Why are these tight ends going to Ohio State? What is Jeremy Rucker up to these days? That's a throwback.
So okay, where do you look to round out the portal talk, and then we're going to talk hoops in a second. Where do you are you thrilled with what Michigan's doing in the portal? Are you indifferent? Are you disappointed? What would you say?
Content. I'm content with what they're doing at this point. I feel I want to see some more movement, but I'm not freaking out either. Like some people are at the moment. I think what they're doing, they're being calculated. I think Sean McGee has done a great job of making sure that they're not just blowing through their budget and like, hey, we have what we're going to pay for particular guys and sticking to that. Some folks, unfortunately, around the program have made it more difficult for Michigan to kind of keep its cards close to their chest, is what it is. But I'm okay with Michigan I'm okay with them not paying 7 figures for, average quarterback play. So,
well, especially I think right now, do you want to pay $1 to $2 million for a QB that might not even be playing come down the stretch of your season? I'd rather go spend that money on 2 to 3 more linemen that will change our offense completely.
Absolutely. No, I'm 100% with you. I'd rather find a guy that's going to be a bridge to Bryce, because I think Bryce is going to play. I think he's going to be starting.
I think I agree with you. I mean, listen, we've talked about this. You have a 3-year window with the number 1 quarterback in the country that is physically ready. Is he mentally ready? I don't know that yet. To play in the Big Ten, that's probably the biggest leap that he needs to make, I imagine, in just decision making and learning and all that stuff. But you've got to put him in as much as possible, in my opinion. You're spending way too much money to not do it.
Yeah,
right.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
That's what.
So, but I feel good. Again, just going back to the schedule for next year. They continue to make some moves. I like what they've done so far. I think shoring up the defensive line, helping the offensive line as well. I really like what they've done so far, and maybe not the splashiest of moves yet. But
that's okay. You don't need to be I don't know. I think some of these teams that are the splashiest are overspending like crazy. And, I think it's still, here's how I feel about the portal. Yes, you need to go get a lot of talent, no doubt. You need to get the right pieces too.
Absolutely.
It doesn't
Michigan mean in 2023.
It doesn't just mean, hey, we need to go get as many 4 and 5 stars as possible. You need the talented guys that fit what you're trying to do. We talked to Blake Frazier about this at the Toy Drive, and this video will come out here soon. But talking about just how Blake Frazier is the type of guy that you want at Michigan because he gets it, right? You need to still stick with that as your foundation of your program in 2024 and 2025, right? That there are still going to be programs like Texas A&M, like Florida State, that have tons of talent all over the place, but they don't have an identity, and it's just a bunch of guys playing, right? And so I think that, for any of you fans out there that might be freaking out a bit, Michigan is, Oregon's dominating the portal. Yes, they are. Or, whatever. There are teams that out there that are dominating it. Sure. And I mean, we can be worried about Oregon. There's no doubt about that. They're undefeated right now. They're the best team in the country, right?
Yeah.
But my point being, like, you need to trust that Jerome Moore is doing this in the right way. I do. And I think that he's building a foundation because the culture is more important than anything. And again, everyone has to think back to 2023. That's literally how we won a national title, was by having the right guys in the right spot. So that's where I'm at with this football program. And still very excited at where we're going to be. So you want to talk about some hoops?
I don't really want to, but let's do it.
Let's do it. I mean, I think that speaking of trusting in a coaching staff, I still very much believe in Dusty May. I'm not freaking out because they have 3 losses by 5 total points. I think disappointing and just like tough. I don't know if it's luck or just like not, they're just not doing things down the stretch that need to be done. They're
not consistent.
Go ahead.
They're not consistent.
Not
right.
consistent.
I mean, they've been up double digits in all 3 of their losses, right? They're up 25-13 against Wake Forest. And then it just seems like a flip gets switched where Michigan's playing great defense. They're scoring at a good pace. And then the other team just starts hitting shot after shot after shot. And it seems like Michigan is frantic on defense. They're jumping at every potential 3-point shot, right? And they're just getting frantic. Last night, again, I mean, up 11 with under 10 minutes to go, somehow lose that game. It's just frustrating. My thing, anytime that Michigan's in a close game under 3 minutes, Danny Wolf should have the ball no matter what. I don't need to see Roddy Gale have the ball. I don't need Trey to have the ball.
I
Give it
don't
to Danny Wolf.
I get it to Danny Wolf at the top and run the pick and roll with him and Vlad, because that's the go-to. Also, I think the frustration from myself last night, I was ready to punch a wall with Roddy Gale waving off Trey Donaldson, who Trey was playing phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trey Roddy was not. I know Roddy got to the hoop and drew fouls all day, but he literally didn't make a bucket. I think that's where Dusty had a timeout at the end too. I think Dusty sometimes lets his guys play, which I like at times. It's a good thing to have trust in your guys, but also to your point, you gotta call the timeout and say, hey, we're getting the ball to Danny Wolf here, right? That is, you have to have you have to be adamant about that and make sure that you know exactly what's going on. And so I'm hoping that Dusty is learning that down this, we're still really early. It's December 19th. You haven't even gotten into, the real conference play yet. I think that they'll be fine down the stretch. I mean, Vlad has been playing unbelievable.
He's that dog, man.
He is, it feels like the game has slowed down for him, which I'm pretty pumped about, because early on it was he get the ball and just throw it at the rim and was missing all those puppies. Now it feels like he's very under control. And then Danny's being Danny. I wish yesterday Danny would have taken over a little bit more. But people are going to figure out Danny, right? I think and so he's going to have to, keep being dynamic. And so I still think that we're in a really good spot. I think if you told me hey, you're 10-3, what are we? 8-3, with 3 losses by 5 points. If you told me that at the beginning of the year, I'd be pretty pumped.
Yeah, I just think it's the way that these losses have occurred, where Michigan has a large lead and then starts to collapse. Unfortunate. Also, I don't know if I agreed with the and one on the 3-point shot. I think he kind of just flailed his body. Is that Jeremy Fear's brother?
Yes.
Jeez. Okay. How do you end up at Oklahoma?
I have no idea. I'm glad that he's not at Michigan State.
Yeah, that kid's a stud, but he was an and one merchant. I mean, dude, some of these foul calls, he never got touched. It was absurd. I saw Steve Lorenzo on Twitter last night talking about the people who were like, well, you should have played better if you didn't want it to come down to a call. So stupid, man. Nobody played perfect. Oklahoma didn't play perfect. Oklahoma didn't deserve to win it any more than Michigan did. So to call that, and then man, on that last Trey shot, Vlad gets assaulted. What are we doing? We're just not gonna call it. We're just swallow our whistle, but we're gonna call it. Like that's not a call. That's not a foul that you should ever call with under 10 seconds left on that 3-pointer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so we're just gonna swallow the whistle.
Unless it's like super egregious, which I didn't think, upon the replay, he might have hit his arm a little bit, but in real time, there's no way that you're seeing that.
I thought the push on Vlad was much more of a flagrant one than Will Cheddar's was. Also, the one where Reuben Jones got swiped across his face. That's not a basketball play. We're not going to review that. I just thought it was awful last night with the officiating. Could Michigan have played better? Absolutely. Every team can play better. I hate that conversation of like, well, if you didn't want it to come down to the refs, shut up, dude. It's a terrible take. Like,
I agree with you. I mean, I think college basketball officiating is the least consistent officiating across the sports, right? Like you get a new crew and they call it differently every single night.
That's the problem though. It's the same crew in the same game, and we're gonna call that on Will. Yet the dude from Oklahoma, like you can clearly tell he meant to swipe his arm up across Reuben Jones' face. What are we doing? We're not going to review that? That's such a swinging point in a game that's so close at that point. So, yeah, I just hated to see it come down to that. Regardless of that, though, Michigan should be 11-1.
I mean, regardless of that, Michigan should be 11-1.
11-0, excuse me.
Honestly, 11-0. Yes, they should be. All three are winnable games, and you should have won them. I think ultimately last night, though, like, you are not going to go 4 for 28 from 3 and win many games at all.
No, the fact that the 3 wasn't falling and they were able to get into the paint, I thought was a good sign. Would have been a lot better to get a win and say that.
It's a good sign, though. Like, to your point, it's a good sign because that means, like, even if we have an off shooting night, we're not just dead in the water.
Absolutely. They can find different ways to be in games. I wish they would have won it so we could say they find different ways to win. But yeah, to your point, 4-28. I mean, dude, you've gotta have better guard play, man. Right? Like, I mean, I think Trey played probably his best game, I think, or close to it so far last night. So that was encouraging. But the reality is that, Trey Donaldson's 1 for 6 from 3. Roddy Gale's 0 for 5 from 3. Cheddar was 0 for 1. Sam Walters 1 for 6. I think that, like, if Sam Walters, if you're not hitting your threes, like, what are you doing for us right now? Unfortunately, I like Sam. I think he can be good, but without him hitting his threes, it's like he's not great on defense and he doesn't go inside the 3-point line. Yeah.
And then, I mean, Namari 0 for 5 from 3. Like, we just gotta have better shooting, and I think what Michigan's really missing right now, like there's one thing missing from making this team like a complete Final Four team is a dominant guard. You don't have anybody right now from the guard position that can go down and take over at the end of a game.
Hey man, it's frustrating too. It just seems like a lot of times that Michigan will, they want to push the tempo, they want to be fast, and I get that, but they'll be one and done on 26 seconds left on the shot clock. And it's like, what was the point?
Yeah.
You just gave it away a possession. Like, I hate that kind of stuff. Also, turnovers were not as big of an issue last night. They were big in critical moments.
I was going to say, they were great for the first 30 minutes, honestly.
That's the theme. They're great for the first 30 minutes, and then they collapse, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. I just have a question. When will the turnovers be addressed? Because I have no problem with, hey, Danny Wolf's trying to thread the needle, make a crazy pass on a backdoor cut and it gets tipped out. Hey, man, so be it. But this shit where they're at the top of the half court in the corner making a lazy pass is bullshit. It's
especially
bullshit.
Down the stretch, man. Like if that happens, I guess in like the first little bit of a game and you're like just getting into rhythm, but like if you can't take care of the ball down the stretch when it's in a critical possession, I think that's where, like, I imagine Dusty May is like, come on, so
man, yeah.
I think it's frustrating. It's like a frustrating and encouraging game at the same time, right? Because you're encouraged that even when you don't shoot well, you can still play hard against a now 11-0 team. Like Oklahoma's really good, right? They're one of the last 4 remaining undefeated teams. But at the same time, it's like at some point you got to win these close games, right? So,
I mean, they, according to ESPN's win probability analytics, they had an 84% chance to win when they got that offensive rebound with like 38 seconds left, up 3. So it's just
the other thing, talking about the 3-point, like literally you can't foul. Like that is, there's one thing you cannot do there, and it's foul on a 3-point play.
If you're gonna foul before, make them shoot free throws, extend the game. If you're gonna do that.
Another thing too is why, like, if you're up 3 there, why not foul?
It's a good question, man. I don't know. There's some things that need to be sorted out with this team. So yeah, it's just really unfortunate. This should be a team that's at the very worst 10-1. It's not 11-0. But again, against Iowa, they had the same issue where Michigan's out to a big lead, and then they, are letting teams back into games, even though they won that one. So they got to nip this in the bud, man. They got to find a way to step on teams' throat, like you tweeted the other night.
Yeah, that was my big thing. Is they let teams hang around, right? So they get a lead, they get a 10-point lead or whatever. They go on a run, and then they let off the gas instead of just like. They need to step on a team's throat. And so I don't know. I think that, to be honest, like I love Danny and Vlad, and I think that they have a killer attitude and killer mentality. You need a guard that had the guy who's bringing the ball up needs to be able to have that killer mentality. I don't know that we have that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that somebody grows into that role. I know LJ Kayson didn't play last night. I believe he's banged up, but he's a guy, I think, as a true freshman, and Pippen as a true freshman, like at some point you might have to say, let's see what these guys have with some extended minutes, and maybe they can grow into that role. So it's something to think about. So by the way, let's see. I just
This is great podcasting, man.
This is great podcasting. What the heck?
Oh, we're still going. Well, shout out to Sun Cruiser Truly and
there you go.
North Peak Brewing, Hail IPA. Get your Hail IPA sold locally. I don't know all the stores it's sold at. I know I've seen it at Total Wine. I've seen it at Kroger. I think I've seen it at Meijer, I believe. I hope I'm not saying the wrong stores here, Justin. But
no, you are. You're saying the right stores.
Sometimes an IPA, something hoppy in the winter, pairs beautifully with the crappy weather we've been having lately. So, just go out there, get you some of those.
P. Nakos just put out a thing of predicting where Justice Haynes is going to go. So I was hoping that he said Michigan, and then we could be really happy about it. He said South Carolina.
See, I saw that last night. He hasn't even visited Michigan, so unless he cancels the Michigan visit, I don't think it's.
He did say confidence level low on that prediction. So I think
dude. I mean, we could get into this.
It's clicks, bro.
My thing, and just knowing some folks that know some folks, that are in this kind of this part of the media, like it seems like these guys just get confirmation from one source who is the agent, who has the ability to go and get his client more money through getting news and rumors out there through official outlets like On3, right?
Yes.
Look, when it comes to journalism, what you are supposed to do, what is taught, and I didn't go to school for journalism, but
we're not big J journalists. So
no, but I've done some journalistic type things in my life, with us, with Blue Band ID, with other outlets and different, sectors of sports. You're supposed to get 2 separate sources on different sides of the house. So that way you're not getting echo chamber confirmation from, let's just say if there was news and you talked to 2 people within the Michigan athletic department, they're hearing the same thing. So you're just confirming the same thing twice through people that have got it from somewhere within the athletic department, right? You're supposed to go and get it from 2 separate sources.
Yes.
That are completely not
I think
affiliated.
my guess is that the portal moves so quickly right now that these guys are just going with their one source and putting it out because they don't have time to like really do the digging. And that's what's causing, that I don't know what the Damon Payne situation was. It sounds like that was actually not on three's fault. It was
I don't think it was on 3 or 247's fault. And 247 is not, free of this either. They do probably similar things, but I think Damon Payne's thing was, it goes to the portal database and people have access to it, and they saw Damon Payne signed with Michigan, so we reported it, and he didn't want it out yet.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
So I think that just in general, though, I think you're seeing more insiders be wrong about things because everything moves so quickly. Kids change their minds like last second. Teams come in with a bag drop offer at the last second, and it changes everybody's minds. So that's the Billy Edwards thing, right? Like he's Michigan's until I don't know what happens, but Wisconsin comes in and grabs him at the last second, and now the insiders' crystal balls are wrong, right? So, well, they're not wrong because they flip them at the last second.
Right.
But
that's not necessarily my problem, because I know kids change their mind all the time, but I just feel like there's a lot of folks in this industry that will jump the gun to be first. It doesn't always pay to be first. It pays to be accurate. So
right now, though, unfortunately, the way that like a lot of things go, it does pay to be first because you get the clicks, and then people move.
But then people don't even know that it was wrong or that it changed or that there was a correction made, and they just assume that whatever it is. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation that we could probably have about just the state of journalism and media in today's world, where there's a lot of folks out there that don't give a shit and do a bad job and don't care and mislead people. So, it is what it is, man. The lamestream media, Justin. Some people
now we really are old men. Just
no, I don't think that. I don't think that. I just think there are some people out there that don't do a great job and don't really give a shit. So it is what it is. But hey, man, it's almost Christmas. Happy holidays.
Get into the.
Can I say that? Can I say Christmas?
What?
Can I say Christmas? Is it my?
You can say Christmas.
Okay. Yeah. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Yep. The Kwanzaa. All of it. Whatever you celebrate, man, enjoy it with your family, with your friends. Have some Hill IPAs at Christmas and deal with your family members you don't like or in-laws or whatever.
I think next week, maybe early next week, we do a Christmas themed type pod. What do you think?
Let's get the OG boys on. Let's get the OG
boys.
When's the last time these guys have been on, by the way? It's been
a long time. Yeah. And let's all crack a drink. We'll crack a Hail IPA, a Truly or something.
Just some eggnog. Let's just spike that eggnog in the moose cup.
Yeah.
From Christmas Vacation. By the way, go to Pretzel Bell. Check out the Christmas Vacation downstairs. It's super cool. You can get one of those souvenir moose cups like from Cousin Eddie in Christmas Vacation. And very fun. They have the movie on like 7 different TVs. Great time. Go check out Pretzel Bell. And but yeah, dude, I'm super down. Get in the holidays. I'll be gone this weekend, but we'll link up and do it.
Get in the Christmas spirit.
Absolutely. Let's get some Toby sweaters.
Don't be a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
Don't be a Grinch.
Yeah. We were watching Scrooge McDuck this morning with Emery. It was awesome.
I love it.
It was just, puts you in the Christmas spirit. Just remind you what's important out there.
Michigan basketball, by the way, does play at home this summer.
I'm going. So. Yeah, I'm going. We're going. This Emery's first Michigan sporting event. Very excited. So we'll be going to see the Dons. IPFW, shout out the Mastodons, baby. But we got to get this done. Got to get over 8 wins. We were 8 wins last year. Got to get over it.
Just PFW, correct?
Yeah, I know. Old habits die hard.
You're sticking with it. All right. For us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Blue by 90 Podcast on YouTube, and BlueBy90.com. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.